boredom's not such a great thing. So anyways, here you are. You're going to this side of the room. You're going from point A to B. This is always what you're doing in your life. You think, that over there, that's way better. That's where I'm headed. Now I've got an open pathway, and I'm flooded with positive emotion, knowing that my pathway towards that valued end is clear. So, why do you set up your room? It's a good example. I talk to people about cleaning up their room. Well, a room is a machine, in a sense. It's a set of tools and obstacles. It's a place to do things in, right? Sleep, that's an important thing. You should set your room up so you can sleep. It should be dark, right? You should have dark curtains, not too much light, not too much noise. Maybe it should be halfway comfortable and not, completely god-awfully filthy. All of that, so that you could sleep there, because hypothetically you have some things to do. And your closet should be organized because you got to put on your clothes, and your clothes signify who you are to yourself and other people, and so they're part of the toolkit that you use to interact with the world. And maybe there's other things that you're going to do in your room. Maybe you work in there a little bit, so your office needs to be set up in some intelligent way so that every time you have to do something difficult, you don't have to do 20 other stupid, difficult things like dig through 30 pens that don't work to find one that works, because that might be enough just to stop you in your tracks, right? You want to set the place up so that the goals are there and the pathways are clear. And then when you go in that room, it makes you full of positive emotion. It's a place that's set up where someone sensible has planned to do valuable things. And by the way, that also makes you less anxious, which is a nice plus, because anxiety comes about when there's too many pointless choices in front of you. And so you want to set yourself up so that you have a certain elegance in the manner in which you've constructed your surrounding. It's devoted towards something. Well, then you have to figure out, well, what should it be devoted towards? Okay, so that's the next thing. What should it be devoted towards? Got to be devoted towards something. Why? Not devoted towards something? No positive emotion. That's not good. Not devoted towards something? Anxious and upset. That's not good. And then it's worse, because if you just sit there and do nothing, you try this for 6 months. Just don't get out of bed for 6 months and see how you feel. And I've talked to people like that, the chronically depressed people, who really haven't got up for months, and it is not good. Like, your default mental state for not actively engaged in important things is nihilistic, pain-ridden, frustrated, disappointed, ashamed, guilt-ridden, and miserable. And so it's not only that you need a valued place to go and a pathway there so that you're not anxious, it's that if you don't have that, then in comes the suffering. And there's no talking yourself out of that. And that's no picnic. No one wants that. And so this isn't optional in some sense. I mean, it is, because you can be miserable. And I'm not saying that everyone's depressed for the reason I just laid out. There's lots of reasons to be depressed. I'm not trying to oversimplify it. I'm just telling you one way that you could be depressed if you want to be. And so, okay, so this is a pretty good pathway, and I'm pretty positive about it. But then if I go here, see, that's a lot more annoying, because now there's something in the way. And I'm not that annoyed about it. And the reason for that is because I know that if I do this, this is a good trick, so watch this carefully. You can do this at home. See, I can just go like that. See, and see. And so that didn't bother me very much, hey? And thank you. I've practiced that for a very long time. Well, I was over there, and it wasn't so good, and I was going to go over here, and it was better. And there was an obstacle in the way, because at that moment, those things there that wasn't a table with 2 bottles on it. It was an obstacle to my progress. Now you can tell this. This is how you respond in your day-to-day life, man. You're in your car, you're driving along, some person cuts you off. And what do you think? Oh, that's someone, man, if I met them in a bar, we'd have a beer, we'd be friends, they probably have a lovely family, we tell a few jokes. It's like, no. It's like, that son of a bitch just cut me off. Right, so you take that whole person and you turn them into an icon. An icon is annoying thing in your way. And then, like, who knows? Like, maybe you're just off to the corner store to buy some beer. You know, it's just not that vital, but that doesn't stop you from reducing the person to an annoying obstacle. And so, well, and that's part of the way that you perceive. And so, this could be an annoying obstacle. But it's not very annoying because I can walk around it. Now, if there was somebody like a basketball player, pro basketball player, standing here, and every time I tried to get around him, he blocked me, well, that would be a lot more annoying. Because I wouldn't be able to calculate a pathway to my goal, and so then I would have to either learn to play basketball a lot better than I can, which would take a long time and be rather pointless, or I would have to reconceptualize my goal-directed perceptual structure, and that would mean I'd have to flip my world upside down. Okay, so now we're going to talk about that, flipping your world upside down a little bit. So a simple story is I'm at point A and I'm going to point B, and I went there. That's a simple story. And a little more complicated story, more interesting story is I was at point A, and it wasn't so great, and I was going to point B, and I was pretty much on board with that. And as I went there, something I didn't really expect happened, and I had this little weird side adventure, and then I calculated my way through it, and I got either back on track or ended up in a better place. That's a meta myth as far as I'm concerned. That's a fundamental mythology of the human race. Aim is of fundamental importance. You got to have an aim. Question is, what should you aim for? Okay, and that's when you get into a discussion of something approximating a value hierarchy. So let's try that. Here's a value hierarchy. So this is my value hierarchy, part of it. I'm a writer. So I'm sitting at the keyboard. What am I doing? Well, I'm not thinking. Not at the highest level of resolution. At the highest level of resolution, I am moving my fingers. I don't even really know how I'm doing that. It's automatic. I don't know which muscles are moving. I just know how to move them. And so my abstract representation bottoms out at the level of motor movement. So that's at the bottom. That's sort of like where the mind hits the body. Okay, so I'm moving my fingers, and what I'm doing when I'm moving my fingers is producing words. But not words, like the right words. Let's say I'm trying to produce the right words, but not just the right words. I'm not just typing letters. I'm not just typing words, although I'm doing both of those. I'm typing phrases. But not just phrases, sentences. And not just sentences, paragraphs. Right? And not just paragraphs, but chapters. Okay, so that's a bullseye, right? Because the center is, well, A, B, E, D. But the next thing out of that is the word, and then the next thing around that is the phrase, and then the sentence, and then the paragraph, and then the chapter. And then let's say the book. Well, the book, hypothetically, has a point, right? What's more annoying than reading a book? You think, well, that didn't have any point. And you think, well, that's kind of an interesting way of putting it. A point? Why would a book have a point? And the answer is because it should point you somewhere, right? And you think about all the things we do that point us places. Like, we watch sports all the time. Team sports. Why? Well, because we see people pointing and aiming, cooperating and competing together in a civilized manner, most of the time, pointing and aiming at things. And we're so thrilled about the fact that people are pointing and aiming at things that we'll go and watch them do it. And we'll pay for it. And then they point and aim at something, then they hit it. And we're so thrilled that they hit it that we all stand up and clap. It's like, oh look, he pointed at something and aimed and hit it. It's like, it's time for like a dozen beer at the pub and a riot in the street. It's like, what the hell? Well, the issue is it's actually rather important. It's so important to point and aim at things that it constitutes the basis of most of our entertainment. And then outside of that, there's more. It's like, well, you got culture, you're trying to put it in order wherever you can, within the confines of your ability, without thinking about that as trivial, because it's not. You think, well, there's some natural problems that might need to be solved. People are hungry, people are sick. There's lots of problems with the world, environmental problems for that matter. There's diseases we could get rid of. Nature, for all its beauty, has got its hands around our neck and is squeezing constantly. There might be things that you could do to, well, improve your own life, your own health, the health of your family, but also to push back against the detrimental forces of nature itself so that there's a bit more positive breathing space for you and the people around you. That'd be good. Why not do that? It beats the hell out of the alternative, as far as I can tell, and then it imbues those little things that you're doing with meaning. It's like, well, what am I doing? Moving my fingers on a keyboard. It's like, no. Words, paragraphs, words, sentences, paragraphs, chapters, books, right? To restructure the tyranny of things, to straighten myself out and maybe to help other people with that, to push back the catastrophe of nature, that as well. And so that imbues that with meaning. And you want things to be imbued with meaning, right? Because life is hard. Life is suffering. Life is mortal suffering, right? You're in this, you're all in, right? You're betting your life on the outcome. You need something to make the fact that this is your life worthwhile. And maybe you need, and it's death we're talking about and the suffering that goes along with that. You might need something pretty damn potent as a antidote to that to stop you from despair and all the terrible things that go along with it. And so you're called upon to do things that are beyond you in order to be engaged in something that meaningful. And then you make the world a better place too. And so then we come to the very outside of that, and I think this is the outside. This is as far as it goes, or at least as far as I can tell. So you confront yourself, and you confront nature, and you confront culture, but fundamentally, you confront the unknown itself.